Hi team, welcome to FJAW, Following Jesus at Work. My name is Mark and I follow Jesus at work because I follow Jesus in life. Before my wife and I started a family, we thought we'd go on a really long trip across Europe, and it was so exciting. We bought a van, and the van was our accommodation. I had a kitchen set up, and so we'd do our cooking in the van. And of course, no transportation costs because we'd paid it all up front, and that was a great trip in a Kombi. Pretty iconic. And being Christians, we asked God a question before we went on our travels. And our question was really around what kind of theme could we conjure up for our travels? You know, what sorts of things might we want to encounter? What sorts of things might we want to collect? You know, people collect badges and stickers and spoons and tea towels and, you know, magnets and all different kinds of things on their travels. And what was really pertinent for us in our lives at that time was to increase our faith, increase our trust in God. And so we asked God to use this trip to reveal more of himself to us and to increase our faith, to give us an adventure. And by the way, we weren't this prescriptive at the time. We just asked for more faith. But really, you know, what we were asking for was teach us to trust you and take us on an adventure where we learn how to trust you more. And man, I could take up an hour to talk to you about the kinds of trials and tests that we endured and encountered where really we needed divine intervention. Lots of stories, but I'm picking one in particular because it was probably the lowest point in our travels. So we were probably 3 months into our journey in our Kombi. We were going through France, to the east of France, heading towards Switzerland, and the van, as Kombis tend to do, was breaking down once again. But this time it was so serious. So we were in some town. I should look at the journal and give you the name, and maybe I might post it as an attachment to this video. We were in some town. Anyway, we stopped at an intersection, and just all of the van, inside and outside, was covered in thick, blue, oily smoke. And I jumped out, and people were kind of pointing, and, you know, we were a bit of a standout attraction because we were really just a big ball of black smoke that had just sort of rocked up to these set of traffic lights. And as I leaped out of the van and looked underneath, there was thick, black, hot oil just pouring onto the road out of the engine. It was like a tap. And I looked at Tara and I said, I think this is it. I think this is really the end of the road. You know, in the van, there was a folder full of invoices from mechanics on work done. This baby had just been patched up by every backpacker since the beginning of time, you know, back to the 70s. And so anyway, I asked Tara if she could look in our camping guide to find the closest place we could just try and limp to. And so we found this place, and, you know, I just, you know, got the van there. You know, I'd already had some bottles of oil in the van, 4-litre bottles of oil, because of having to top up previously. But, you know, every 5 minutes, had to pull over, oil dripping straight through on the bottom of the engine, me pouring oil at the top just to get us to our stopgap destination. So we arrive at this really amazing campground. It wasn't something that we had intended to find, but it was just spectacular. Had a riverfront on one side, a real kind of provincial French environment. Surrounding the campground, had a pool, had a great little kind of bar and pub that was there, which was also a bistro and a pizza place. And most importantly for us at the time, a receptionist who was this young fella who spoke English and was able to help us out. So we parked up, just left the van, and went to speak to this guy so that we can find a local mechanic. There was no real local mechanic anywhere nearby. I spoke to a VW Porsche dealer explained our circumstances, what had been done before, what I saw going on, where the oil was coming from. And, the bad news was that the engine was kaput. This was the end of the road. This was internal damage. And to get a replacement was going to cost us €2,000. That was travel money. We didn't have that kind of money. And really that spelled the end of the trip for us, we got really depressed, actually, and we went and watched this great little band in the bistro that evening. The guitarist was a real showy kind of dude, had a singer who was just amazing, but I think he kept telling her off because she wasn't following his lead. He was, playing the guitar this way and this way and this way, and I think, just wanted him to be the center of the show, and told her off every time she was detracting from his genius. He had really just given up. We were feeling down, discouraged, and deflated. And we thought, where's God in all of this? We had this huge, once-of-a-lifetime trip travelled. We'd saved up. I'd worked 2 jobs to get the dosh to be able to do this. And we still had many more plans. Not only were we going to go to Switzerland and Germany, we still had Croatia and Poland. And we also had... we'd come from the Czech Republic. We were going to Greece, we were going to Turkey, we were going to the Middle East to end up in Egypt eventually. So there was still a lot of travel to do, and yet here it was the end, and we cut it short. So, we got deflated and, dusted ourselves off the next morning and, just talked to God and said, it's over. We don't know what to do. We're going to start making calls to head back home from where we are. We just couldn't afford to repair the van, and not enough money to travel using trains and planes and buses and those sorts of things. So it was a weekend. It was a long weekend. Things were closed, so we just made use of our environment. And this is the thing. It was a really great place, so peaceful, so cultural, and it was genuine rest in a place that was off the map, and really a very small blurb in the travel companion guide. So anyways, we, through the receptionist at the front, who was so friendly, God bless you there, brother, he hooked us up with a French mechanic that was several kilometres down the road. And in the meantime, I got some more oil for our vehicle to get us there. And so anyway, we said our farewells. We'd met good people there, and started travelling. And so every 3 kilometres I pulled over to top up the oil, and strangely enough there was no drip. And anyway, I drove another 3 kilometres, stopped to fill up, but no drip, no oil required. What's going on here? So we pull up at this mechanic eventually, and he puts the van up on a hoist, and you can imagine the character. Blue overalls, early 50s, a bit portly, got a rag at the back pocket hanging out, and just whistling along with a grubby black face, tapping a spanner here, tapping a spanner there, bit of a screwdriver, whistling as he's going around, taking his steady time. And anyway, the van comes off the hoist, and Tara and I are there with our breath still, and he just says, there's nothing wrong. The van's great. And he charged us €19, and for no reason at all, the engine was fixed. Healed. Miracle. A mechanical miracle. God doesn't just turn water into wine. He turns hemorrhaging, oily Volkswagen engines into tight units that can power along once again. And it was such a great lesson for us. It was such a great demonstration of God's providence, of God's power, of God's love and his control of our circumstances. And we learned that we don't have to get really so deflated when all seems lost. In fact, that's when God shows up. And it was a great lesson in faith, and I needed to rely on that at work today. Impossible circumstances, gut-wrenching pain and aches on something going terribly, terribly wrong. And it was that occasion there that helped me face my situation today at work, because the situation was beyond hope. It was beyond my skill, beyond my capability, beyond my influence. This really needed divine intervention. And it's too sensitive to share, but mark my words, God healed my circumstances today, and He's demonstrated how He does that in my past, which gave me confidence today. Hey, God bless you. Ask God to teach you to trust Him, and then stand back and just be ready and watchful and lean into Him, reading His Word, asking for His direction every step of the way, and He's going to blow your socks away. Enjoy that. God bless you.